Hey Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me, Yannick. I'm just a guy, man. I started a small business when I was in college and have slowly taken opportunities as they came at me.
Cool, cool. Because I read on Twitter that you had like a light bulb moment, and then you started amassing wealth. What led up to that moment? Why did you decide to change your life?
Yeah, I would say it was a slow burn of a light bulb moment. I mean, it was in college when um, we got excited about picking up and delivering student storage, and we filled our cars with boxes and hauled them up into our rooms and made about 3 grand in a week. And most people wouldn't really get excited about that because we worked our butts off and we missed a couple parties, and everybody else was having a good time. But my partner and I got excited and we started the business, and you know it was sweaty and slow growing. First couple of years, we just went to a couple more schools to do student storage every year. But you fast forward 10 years, and it's kind of amazing what starting the snowball rolling down the hill that early does. So I think it's been more of a slow burn.
Cool. And why did you decide to go into student storage?
I was an opportunist. I didn't even consider myself an entrepreneur. I just was looking for a way to make money. Um, then we kind of looked at it as an opportunity to, hey, maybe we can use this as a way to not go get normal jobs, because normal jobs would not be that fun. Um,
Hmm. Because it was when I don't live in the States, so I live in the Netherlands. We don't have a thing here that's called like student storage. So for people that don't know, what is it?
we did pick up and delivery. Our business has evolved. So at the very beginning, when the students would go home from university in the summer, we would pick up their stuff before they left, store it in a warehouse, and then take it back to them when they got back. That was a service business. We would drive trucks around. We had a lot of employees. And then in 2017, we built a self storage facility, a building that has garage doors that people can store their extra stuff. And if you know anything about Americans, they have a lot of stuff. They like to buy stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, then we built that first building. It went well. I got some capital partners behind us, and then things have really started to accelerate over the last couple of years as we get more serious about real estate. Um, but yeah, it's you know slow, because 2011 we launched. 2013 we were making maybe 100 grand a year. 2015 is when we were making decent money, my partner and I. And when I say decent money, I mean half a million US dollars a year, and use that money to put as a down payment towards a real estate development project in 2017, and that's when things really changed for us.
Nice, nice. And so, do I look at this right? That people they cancel their apartment, then things go into storage. They save money on rent, and then come back and rent a different place. Or what's the reasoning behind?
Yeah, when they go home for the summer, they kind of leave the dorms. They live in dorms at college. So when they are in the dorms, they can't stay there all summer. So they have to do something with their stuff. And a lot of times they live out of state,
Oh,
need somewhere to put their things.
cool, cool. And why did you know this was a big thing? Or
I didn't think it was I mean, looking back, it wasn't a big thing. We worked our butts off. And honestly, the amount of effort and the amount of risk and the amount of stress around doing the logistics of that service business, was pretty tough. Um, but I just think it gave us an opportunity. It taught us that, hey, there's more to life than trying to find the best job you can and going to work for somebody else. You can you know do the do life a little bit differently and create opportunities for yourself. And then we were all about just trying to find the next opportunity, the next bigger and better opportunity from there, the entire time, really.
hmm. And how did you decide on what pricing to go for?
I think that's a tough part, because we looked at a competitors, figured out what we thought we could charge, and then we ran the numbers backwards on how much money we thought we could make. I mean, honestly, we made a lot of mistakes in the early days, but yeah, we operated at about a 20% margin, meaning if $1 million in revenue would generate about $200,000 for my partner and I to pay ourselves.
Hmm. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
so and how does the cut? You have to pick up the stuff. Then you have to either you have employees, you need the truck, then you need the space.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah, it
saw a
was
little bit of your.
incredibly logistically challenging, right? We'd have to. This was back when Uber was launching, and people expected service to be, right when they wanted it, how they wanted it. So we had to have box trucks rented and employees prepared and dollies and boxes and supplies at people's doors at the time they were expecting us. And if we weren't there in time, they could miss a flight because they were heading out of town,
Yeah,
whatever it
yeah,
might
yeah.
be. So yeah, it was a lot of logistics. It taught us a lot about delegation, managing, dealing with employees. We'd have, upwards of 150 part-time employees that we would hire every single year, year in and year out. So yeah, it taught us a lot about business.
Wow. Wow. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
And so I saw your calculation on Twitter. If you can keep your cost 1% below your revenue gain, I guess in the
Mm-hmm.
end that's gonna land you a lot of money. Can you run us through that? How that works?
Well, yeah. So if you raise your prices 5%, your costs don't change. So your margin, if your margin was 20%, your margin just expanded by 20% with a 5% increase, because all that goes straight to profit. So a lot of business owners that charge too little, don't understand that even a 1 to 5% price increase can really make a big difference for the amount of money that you take home at the end of the day, because it all goes straight to the bottom line if it's on the top.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess
Yeah.
in real estate, well, you actually, well, you do real estate and services, so I guess it's like a combined thing. But definitely in real estate, you put in a down payment, you get a mortgage that's usually fixed for, I don't know, 10, 15, whatever years. So you know what your expenses are going to be, and if you can then, that's usually fixed, and then if you can increase your revenue by 1% every year, that's going to really tick.
Yeah, exactly. So real estate is a little bit different than the service business. So we actually sold our company in January and focus full time now on real estate. We do real estate private equity, but we manage the asset itself as well. But yeah, if you can, if expenses make up 30% of total costs in a self storage facility, you have a lot of debt service and other things below the line. But as far as actual expenses that you use to run the company, if it's 30 to 50%, and your revenue grows 5% a year and your expenses also grow 5% a year, your margins, your profit is going to grow 10% a year, because the larger number is growing at the same rate as the smaller number, so it's adding more money to the bottom line.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good one. And
Yeah.
so if somebody would want to start in real estate, what would you say? They need a little bit of cash at least to make the down payment, I guess. How would you start with that?
Yeah, I would say real estate is small business. People think it's passive. People think real estate is just something that you can put money into and, walk away or just collect rent every single month. The best real estate operators that I know have a competitive advantage and treat real estate like small business. They do the ins and outs of the marketing, the leasing, the operations well. And so I recommend starting a small business first, understanding business, understanding how it works, and using that small business to also generate cash for yourself. Because at least commercial real estate, it's really hard to get started without $100,000 or, and plus the ability to raise a couple $100,000 from outside investors. So it can get, expensive, but that's commercial real estate. Residential, I'm not as big in residential. I think there's a lot of competition and the yields are kind of compressed, but also there's a lot more of it. So it's easier to find deals. Yeah, I don't know. You can do that with 20 grand or so, I would think.
Yeah. And how do you find like commercial products?
Commercial real estate is basically the offices, the self-storage facilities, the hospitals, everywhere you go that's not a home, that someone doesn't live. Those are commercial. That's what is considered commercial real estate. So yeah, there's tons of different asset classes. There's everything from RV parks on up to nursing homes and shopping centers and things like that. So it's pretty wide. You can choose any asset class that you might want to go after.
Yeah. And so asset class is like what kind of risk? When you go to RV homes, the risk of people defaulting on their payment is probably higher than when you go to nursing homes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all depends. Exactly right. There's different trends and different, hotels. Exactly, like hotels during the recent pandemic were really struggling, but self storage facilities and industrial space, those were not impacted as much, right? So it all depends on the different events that might impact uh, all the different asset classes, retail, industrials, and so on.
Yeah. And how do you decide in what kind of class you want to invest?
It all depends on what kind of competitive advantage you have. I mean, it's all about focusing and getting good at one thing, right? If you're going to try to be good at 10 different asset classes, it's not as easy. But if you focus on, for me, I focus on self storage. I don't do any other type of real estate investing because this is what I'm good at. This is what I know. And a lot of people are also kind of passive investors that, maybe I do real estate, but I'm going to invest it with my friend who does industrial real estate and so on.
Yeah. But then
Yeah.
you buy like the self storage unit as in the building, but you
Mm-hmm.
do also do like the sales.
Yeah, that's the difference. Commercial real
Yeah.
estate, there's operations, and you can hire a third party manager to manage your asset for you, or you can do it yourself. We do it ourselves. We're a fully integrated company where we answer the phones for customers all the way up to raise the capital to close the deal and own the deal. So yeah, the operations and having the web presence and doing the marketing and knowing, how to price your units and how to get tenants, all that stuff is really important when it comes to the type of real estate that I do, which you wouldn't think. A lot of people think real estate is somebody who just sits around and gets checks sent to their mailbox, but
Yeah.
it's a small business.
Yeah, because you could also be the guy that like buys the building and then rents out the building, the self storage
Mm-hmm.
building. But that's not
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing. Why did you make
Exactly.
that decision?
Um, there's different people who do it different ways. In self storage, it's pretty rare for the owner to rent the building out to somebody. The owner may hire a management company that runs the business for them, but it's still their business. But then again, other asset classes, they do kind of lease the entire building and let somebody else run the business. Like if you're a retail landlord, you hire a grocer or a shopping a store to come in and they run their business inside your property, just lease it from you. So there's different ways to do it.
And what would you say are your biggest competitive advantages?
Well, for us in self storage, we manage our property remotely, so we don't have a staff on site, and we do a really good job sourcing deals and finding property where we can, there's some room to increase rents. The market rent is higher than what maybe the owner's charging, and we can see decent returns.
And how does it go because when you buy a property and they already have tenants, you can't just raise prices, or can you?
It depends if there's a shortage of storage in the market, or if other competitors are maybe charging more than what you're charging. Then yeah, sometimes we do raise rents right off the bat. Yep, it all
Okay.
depends on what we think we can do in that given market.
Okay, that's
Yep.
interesting because
Mm-hmm.
I would say that, but that's probably the contract that says we can raise prices at any time, but the people are also free to leave at any time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's just a free market. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay, and so um, you manage the entire thing from marketing, sales. You do you buy the asset. Um, what's going to be your next step? Are you just going to expand throughout the entire country, or what are your plans?
Yeah. So we've purchased 20 self storage facilities, and 13 of them we purchased in the last 6 months. So we're growing really fast right now. We're at almost 500,000. Actually, we are over 500,000 square feet of storage that we manage. And with commercial real estate, there's kind of some economies of scale that when you have a larger portfolio, some new buyers, some new potential owners of the portfolio come into the picture. So our goal is to scale up and buy another 20 to 30 million, and then sell it all.
Wow, interesting.
Yep,
And so
that's our goal.
do you have outside investors, or it's just you and your partner? Or?
Yeah, we raise money. A lot of it we've raised from folks we met on Twitter, but yeah, we raise outside investors capital from high net worth individuals and family offices and institutions that are looking for self storage exposure. Yeah, that's what we do. That's the real estate private equity side of it. So we have a CFO, and when we have a new deal, a new self storage facility, we send it out to folks and we say, okay, who might want to invest in this deal? These are the return metrics. This is what we think we can do with it. Here's our plans, and we raise the money that way.
Cool. Wow. And so, when's the plan to really like exit? When are you?
Well, we're getting close. I mean, our portfolio is probably worth 40 million right now, but we think around 75 million is the sweet spot. So we want to buy some more storage, continue to operate, get all of our facilities that we own under management, running the right way, and then really go from there and go to market and see what might happen.
Okay, and 75 million because that's where strategic buyers like the countrywide competitors start seeing you as maybe a threat and
yeah, there's just different pools of capital, right? So the big players, the private equity companies, the people who have more capital, they don't always have time or energy to go buy a one-off self-storage facility for 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. They have a big team and they're looking to deploy 20 million or 30 million. And so they do, they'd prefer guys like us to go around and do the work, get the facilities all purchased, get them branded, get the rents up, get them all, organized. And then they make the acquisition then and hold
Hmm.
it for a long time. Yep.
Cool, cool. And let's say we go back 10 years. Would you do the same thing? What would you do different?
I think I would do it all the same, but it might just be a little faster. We made a lot of mistakes. We learned a ton. I mean, when we started the company, we were 22 years old. So didn't know a whole lot about business, didn't know a whole lot about management, didn't know a whole lot about delegation. And we learned those things by, making mistakes and operating that company for 7, 8, 9 years. So I definitely wouldn't change anything knowing what I know now, because I feel really blessed to have the opportunities that I have. But I think if I went back knowing what I know now, we would do it all a little bit faster, right? We would get more serious about operating and growing the service business. We would have built our first self-storage facility earlier, and we would have, just had the confidence to go. I think it's all about confidence a little bit.
Hmm. So run us through some of the mistakes you made and how you. So you mentioned, you'd go all in a bit quicker.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
I think early on we didn't really take ownership of our hiring and training, so our employees were messing up a lot of things, and we were hiring employees wanting them to do 20 or 30 things well. Like we were uh, hiring a customer service rep that was also going to drive a truck, that was also going to make our invoices, that was also going to move the boxes, and they were out there doing all these things, and it was really hard to train employees. It was really hard for them to provide a consistent, service to our customers. Um, when we got good, and also my partner and I would sit around and complain. We'd say, we can't find anybody good. Our employees are making all these mistakes. It's crazy. Like nobody wants to work. When we finally looked at it and said, okay, look, it's our fault as a business owner. Like we are not setting these people up to succeed. We need to build a business that normal people can come in and learn it quickly, and they can thrive and they can do well. That's when we got serious about building systems. We simplified their job a little bit. So maybe they weren't also answering customer service calls, and they weren't also, creating our invoice. Instead, they were just taking a picture of the order, and they could focus on what they were supposed to be doing. That's when things really grew. And that's when we started doing really well.
Cool,
Yep.
cool. And so a couple of years back, you started your Twitter account. Yeah, run us through that. Why did you, go on Twitter? How did it go?
Yeah, so I first started a podcast, and that was in December of 2018. It's called the Sweaty Startup Podcast, and it was just about small business and entrepreneurship. Because my whole philosophy on entrepreneurship is, hey, Silicon Valley, raising money, venture capital, that's not the only way to start a business. The people that I know, some of them that are doing well, they're wealthy, and honestly, they're not even that smart. Like me, for example, they started just service companies. They started small businesses. They were just doing normal things. They were just trying to do them pretty well. And they made a lot of money, and they did pretty well. So, I was trying to get that message out because I saw in college a lot of people who were focused on entrepreneurship all over the country. People, friends of mine were going to try to start businesses, and it's just really, really, really hard when you have a new idea and you're trying to get momentum early on, especially when you don't have money, wealth, whatever it might be. So, I mean, I started a podcast in December of 2018, and then I got on Reddit, entrepreneur subreddit, trying to promote that podcast. And I did that for about a year. And I learned how to write copywriting. I learned how to write copy, and I learned how to kind of, clarify my thoughts and ideas. And I was making a lot of podcast episodes and so on. And a guy reached out to me, a friend of mine named Moses Kagan, who's on Twitter, and he said, Nick, you should get on Twitter. It's, we're meeting a lot of other real estate people. We're raising money for our deals. We're getting smarter. We're getting better. Like, you should come on and do it. He heard my podcast, and he came on my podcast. And at the end of the conversation, he said, Nick, you should get on Twitter. I didn't even know you were in real estate. It would really help you.
Yeah.
And so in April of 2020, right after COVID hit, really, I got serious about Twitter. And the rest is history. It's just changed my world altogether.
Yeah, because I think one of your first threads that did really, really well was about, what kind of job, or at least you gave advice to people that were in the job market, I guess.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Run us through that.
Yeah, I think I just started tweeting a lot about, hey, entrepreneurship isn't what you necessarily read in the news. Hey, you don't have to be a genius to start a business. Hey, you don't need a brand new idea to start a company. There's a lot of misconceptions around entrepreneurship and wealth on the internet. And some of those threads really took off. A couple of them about, Shark Tank and TechCrunch is not the only way. And then the big one about, some of the bad advice that I've gotten in my life about, what's important and following your passion, and some other things that I just think are really, really bad pieces of advice that people get all the time that I just disagree with wholeheartedly. And some of those threads took off, and one in particular on, I think it was January 2nd, got 7.5 million impressions, 50,000 likes, 7,000 retweets. And that one got me 30,000 followers and took me almost over 100,000 followers, and changed everything.
Wow. Wow. And you mentioned that you also raise money and do deals via Twitter. What? Tell us about that.
Well, I don't really necessarily raise money, advertise for my deals on Twitter, but I talk about real estate and I talk about what I do and I talk about my deals. And then I make friends with other people in the business and other people who are potential investors. And some of those people have went on to invest in some of my self-storage deals. So, no, you can't really advertise and sell securities on Twitter, but you can meet like-minded people. So I use Twitter to meet like-minded people who are investors, who are interested in real estate, and we had conversations, and I would help them. They would help me. We would get to know each other and build a relationship that way. So it's really been an ultimate network. It's exploded my network on Twitter, and I'm really thankful for it.
And what would you say are like the key drivers behind your growth? Of course, those the threads, but why did they take off, do you think?
I think everybody talks about building, and this is going to be something a lot of people don't want to hear, probably. A lot of people talk about community building and gaining influence and getting people to follow you on Twitter. And I mean, it's not impossible. There's some people who do it, but the majority of influencers on Twitter, especially in the wealth, real estate, self-help realm, 99 out of 100 have actually done it before. They are living it. They have started a company. They have sold a company. They are building a real estate portfolio, whatever it might be. So I was doing it. I was out there. I was buying self-storage facilities. We were trying to raise money for them. We were doing the deals. We had a small business. And then I just openly shared everything. A lot of entrepreneurs are also very secretive. They're very, keep to themselves. They don't want people to know what they're doing. They're afraid that somebody's going to steal their ideas. I looked at it the opposite way. I was like, I'm going to share every single thing I know about business and entrepreneurship. And I think instead of people stealing my ideas and it costing me and, it really holding me back, I think I'm going to meet a lot of great people. And I think they're going to want to work with me. And I think it's going to help my network. So I started sharing my profit and loss statements. I started sharing the struggles. I started being honest about how hard being a business owner was. And I think that was the key driver of my growth.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. A lot of people talk about it, but not a lot of people do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. I mean, it's uncomfortable. It's scary. It's easy for me to write a tweet that's 280 characters and talk about a deal that I'm doing, but doing a deal and living it and putting your money at risk and going out there and taking a chance when you don't know what's going to happen, it's scary. It's really scary. So when it comes time for people to actually step up to the plate and do it, it's tougher.
No. And then a couple of months ago, you decided to create a course, the real estate course. Run us through that.
Yeah, I started writing one night, and basically what it was is a document that I wish I would have read. I wish I could have read when I was 24 with some capital about to get into real estate. How deals are put together, how they're structured, how to talk to bankers, how to think about operations, how to, just all the things that I had to learn through the hard knocks and just making a bunch of mistakes and sounding like an idiot. What I wish I would have had as a resource to kind of accelerate my journey into real estate. And it ended up being 100,000 words and 95 pages and a lot of videos and some quizzes. And I called it, Nick Huber's Real Estate Masterclass, and advertised it on Twitter and to my email listserv. And I, this is going to sound silly. I charged $2,000 for the course, and I sold 156 of them in the first week. So I made $300,000 in a week.
That's sick. I saw it. Yeah, because some people sell their course for $25. Other people will sell it for $200. You sold it for 2,000. Why did you set that price?
I just didn't want people to buy the course unless they were serious. And commercial real estate is not for people who are messing around. It's not for people without cash. It's not for people who, oh, I want to maybe do something on the side. It's for people who have maybe $100,000, maybe an access to wealthy people in their lives who could fund a deal, and who people who are really serious about doing a deal. So yeah, I did a lot of work on it. It's like getting, 200 hours of consulting with me. So I just tried to price it where people would walk away from it being like, damn, that was very worth the money that I paid to buy that.
Yeah, good one. And when you started writing, did you already think about, hey, I'm going to create a course out of this?
Online course sales has a dirty reputation. I mean, the Ty Lopez and the Grant Cardones and these people who sell courses, they get a lot of flack, and for good reason, because many of the people who take their courses are just it's a pipe dream, right? They don't really plan on doing anything. They just buy the courses to hope to make $1 million really fast. Yeah. That's not how real estate works. Real estate is not a get rich quick scheme. So I didn't want to, and I also didn't want it to interfere with the other things that I do on Twitter, like, my podcast and the real estate private equity company. So it was a tough decision to put myself out there to actually sell something to my audience, because I've just been giving everything for free for as long as I can remember. Everything I know is on the internet on my blog. I've recorded 230 podcast episodes, never charged for anything in my life. So it was a little bit uncomfortable doing that.
Cool. And why did you set the price at 2K and not at 5 or 1 or?
I don't know. I feel like $5,000 would have scared a lot of people off. I just trusted my gut. I don't know. It's tough. I think 1,000 would have been less valuable than it is. I think a lot of people are going to use that as a tool to generate a lot of wealth. So I don't know. I just trusted my gut.
Well, it paid off. When you sell 165 in the first week. How many people did you email, and how many people responded to the tweet?
I had an email list of about 15,000 people at the time. And then Twitter, it kind of blew up on Twitter a little bit when I launched it and got a lot of impressions on the original posts. So, it was Twitter in my email list, no paid advertising.
Yeah. How did you rank up 15,000 email subs?
Slowly but surely over the course of 2 years, right? With my podcast. And my podcast was a lot of them. My blog was a lot of them. And then a lot of Reddit threads or Twitter threads about entrepreneurship and small business.
Okay. And did you ask people on the podcast to subscribe to your newsletter?
A couple times. I would put a little blurb at the back about my newsletter and how I send it out once a week. And then on Twitter, I would talk about, if you like this stuff and you want to get some of it delivered to your inbox, then you can, sign up here and so on. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do you know Noah Kagan?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Because he talks about his email list a lot, of course, with Sandfox and stuff like that. But he also always says that it's hard to get people from your podcast to a newsletter. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, it is. I mean, not very many conversions. Twitter was much, much more powerful at conversions.
Yeah. And so you'd say that the majority of your subscribers came from Twitter?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd say 75% of them or more.
Okay. And can you give a couple of examples of tweets that did well in driving newsletter subs?
Yeah, I would break down a real estate deal. I'd say, hey, look, here's a property. It was listed for this much. This is how much we spent to buy it. This is how we financed it. This is how much revenue and profit it did. If you like this kind of thing, sign up for my newsletter at the end. And those, some of those threads would get 250,000 impressions, and would add 500 people to my newsletter. Some of them, when they were doing really well.
Oh, that's nice. Cool. And so you got, I think, 117,000 followers right now, something like that. I think
117. Yeah, I think so. Let me look. Yep, 117. Yeah. Crazy.
And so, I think a couple of threads really blew up, and that's where you got a lot of growth from. What other things would you say that did well?
Yeah, I'd say some of the keys to my success, and I'm not perfect at this because I'm a human being and it's easy to just tweet, but everything I write, my goal is to make a smart person think hard about something. I don't want to write something that people will scroll by and go, and then keep scrolling or just scroll right past. I want them to look at it and say, oh, that's a little bit of a different way of thinking about something. I haven't thought about it that way before. That's my goal on Twitter. There too many people tweet way too much. I think they're tweeting all day, a couple tweets a day, or even a couple tweets a week. If you look at like Julian Shapiro, how he does Twitter at Julian, he's very disciplined and very regimented, and it's not overloading anybody. He's a follow that, hey, I'm going to deliver on brand content exactly how you thought it was going to be when you signed up to follow me.
Yeah.
I do a little bit more personal stuff because I want people to get to know me. But yeah, it's no politics ever. That's a rule of mine. Stay on brand, stay on topic, don't tweet everything, and just add a ton of value to other people. Share openly about what you're doing. But part of that is you have to be doing something interesting, right? So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And well, you have your DMs open. I guess you also receive other DMs. What are like the DMs that really stood out, or DMs you ignore?
I get a lot of dumb DMs. I'll say that. I got a really dumb DM today. You want me
Hey,
to
can
read it
you
to you?
help me? Hey, can you invest in my project? Hey, can you?
Hey, Nick, I have an issue with finding a romantic partner and sustaining myself. Is there anything you know that can help me develop more? Thanks. That's a DM I got. That's a DM I got today
Wow,
about, I mean, I get 40 direct messages a day.
fuck, wow,
It's a lot. It's a
that's a
lot.
lot.
It's a lot. So I don't 99% of them I don't respond to, right? Because I can't. So, and it's amazing how many people will just send a wall of text, and expect you to spend 6 minutes reading it. But a lot of people do show up in the DMs that want to collaborate, help me in a way, or pay me to help them. A lot of opportunity happens there too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's like a double-edged sword. You get a lot of DMs, but a lot of crap as well. And a lot of people don't know how to send a proper DM, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, the proper DM gets the. I mean, look, when you're looking at the DMs in your inbox, you get about 35 characters that you get to read before you click on it. That's what you need to catch whoever you're trying to send a DM with right there. Um, it's tough. It's tough, but
Yeah.
getting an in the DM is almost always about. Well, people network. I think people network the wrong way. Um, I know you. I know you're going to try to wrap up here in a minute, but I'll try to. You
No,
know,
no, 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 no.
yeah. So people, network with their hand out. Hey, help me, help me, help me, Nick. How can you help me? Hey, me. I need help. Me. Nick, help me.
Yeah,
The people who really win with networking, they walk around saying, okay, I'm going to walk into a room. How can I add as much value to as many people as absolutely possible? How can I help you? How can I help you, Yannick? How can I help you, Nick? Like, hey, here's a thing that I can do to help you right now, because it's all about status, right? You work your way up the status line. If you're at the bottom, it's really hard to get up, and people don't have time. I mean, I'm trying to do what I can do to put out as much content as I can and help as many people that way. Unfortunately, I just don't have the brain power or the time to sit in my DMs and direct message people individually. So, the way to get me to help you in the DMs is to find a way to help me. People are too selfish when they're networking, and I know it makes me sound selfish when I'm saying like help me in the DMs, but there's mutually beneficial ways to help each other. Like if I can benefit and you can benefit, that's a synergy, and that's a real way to kind of supercharge networking.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, and I guess people just need to realize that when you get 40 DMs a day, you can't respond to them all. Two, if you keep getting messages like "help me, help me, help me," you might do that once or twice. You might say, "Okay, I'll dig into this one. I'll do," but you can't keep doing that. So
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. Exactly.
cool. What do people need to do for you to retweet them?
I don't do that for people in there who DM me asking for retweets.
I mean more in general. Like, what kind of tweets would you retweet?
Yeah,
Not people paying
yep.
you or something like that.
So I do quote retweets. I don't retweet. Very rarely do I retweet, because if I'm just retweeting, I'm not adding anything. It's already out there. I'm just spreading it. I prefer to only tweet when I can quote tweet and add something interesting or a different way of thinking about something. So I will quote tweet something where somebody does something thoughtful and I feel pretty strongly about, in agreement with them or in a disagreement with them. That's when I will quote tweet them.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Again, my goal is not to clutter up people's threads. My goal is to add value. And if I can't add value myself, then I'm not going to retweet somebody unless it's a friend of mine and they're promoting something, and I'll try to help them out because they helped me out or something like that.
No. Let's say we remove your Twitter account. You don't have a podcast. You do still have your business. What would you do to, grow your account?
I would do the same thing. I would get on and start sharing in very openly about what I'm doing. I would try to do interesting things and I would share it. And I would also work really hard to add value to some people with around 5 to 10,000 followers. I was really lucky that when I joined Twitter, Moses Kagan, the guy that got me to join Twitter, he had about 6,000 followers at the time. And when I got on Twitter, I wrote a really interesting thread, and he said, I didn't ask him, but he just quote tweeted it and said, hey, this guy Nick is doing some cool things. You should follow him. And that got me to 750 followers right away. Wow. And that gave me the momentum to continue to grow. So if I were starting out and I was doing some interesting things, I would talk about my interesting things, and then I would find a way to help some people in the DMs who have 5 to 10,000 followers and try to get them to quote tweet me. Yeah, because I think that'd be key.
Good one. Mm-hmm. Nick, this was a lot of fun. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I think Twitter at Sweaty Startup. They can email me, sweatystartup@gmail.com. They can check out my Sweaty Startup website, sweatystartup.com. The podcast is called The Sweaty Startup. That's where they can find me.
Thanks. Nick from The Sweaty Startup. Thank you.
I appreciate you having me on, Yannick. Thank you so much.